Real estate development is full of extreme alpha males and big risk takers, pretty much the complete opposite of me. These are real estate's big swinging. In order for someone to earn a big swinging title from us, they have to meet 2 out of these 3 criteria. 1. Develop something so outrageous it changed the way real estate was done. 2. Risked losing 9 figures or more at some point in their career. Or 3. Couldn't keep their big swinging in their pants. Today's big swinging actually meets all 3 criteria. He is the man who almost single-handedly reshaped the Las Vegas Strip. His buildings were inspirational and trendsetting, and his behavior was the driving force behind both his rise and his fall. He is the quintessential big swinging. He is Steve Wynn. Stephen Allen Weinberg was born on January 27, 1942 to a wealthy family in Connecticut. His father owned and operated bingo parlors across the East Coast, giving him a pretty lavish upbringing. Nonetheless, he studied hard and went to UPenn to study English literature, and was set to attend Yale Law School when his father unexpectedly died during open heart surgery. It turned out his father also racked up $350,000 in gambling debts, so in lieu of law school, Steve opted to run the bingo parlors and pay off the debts. Turns out he was really good at it and made more than enough to pay off the debt. With his experience and profits, he moved to Vegas in 1967 at the age of 25 with his wife and 10-month-old daughter to pursue his fantasy of owning property on the Las Vegas Strip. His first investment in Vegas was in the Frontier Casino, which, unbeknownst to Steve, turned out to be operated by the mob. Law enforcement prosecuted management, but Steve wasn't implicated. He ended up staying out of the casino biz for a few years while he ran a liquor distribution business. But during this time, he showed flashes of his deal-making prowess. In 1971, he bought a parking lot next to Caesar's Palace for $1.1 million from Howard Hughes, who was notorious for not selling any of his land in Vegas. Steve had a friend do a mock-up of a huge sign for his planned casino, Gangland. So this 26-year-old guy who seemed to come out of nowhere with the only thing on his Vegas track record was an investment in a mob-run casino, was about to build what seemed to be a magnet for more gangsters right next to Caesar's Palace. Caesar's was having none of that, and when Steve offered to sell it to them for $2.25 million, they accepted. Steve profited $700,000 from the 11-month flip. The kicker? He never intended to build Gangland, but he knew that Caesar's would be willing to pay a premium for him not to build it. It was a bluff that paid off and set him on an exponential growth path. He took the profits along with money from his liquor business and began to accumulate shares of the publicly traded and failing Golden Nugget. By the next year, he became majority shareholder and led a hostile takeover, installing himself as chairman and president. At 31 years old, he was the youngest casino owner and operator in Vegas. As Steve would show time and again, he had an instinct for what people wanted and was able to develop a crystal clear vision for a property. His confidence in that vision inspired people to throw money at him, and he raised unheard of sums with each successive project. Sadly, and somewhat ironically, his actual vision started to degenerate due to retinitis pigmentosa, giving him progressively worse tunnel vision. With the Golden Nugget, he immediately knew that he would give it a modern facelift to attract the wealthy. He then partnered with Michael Milken, the junk bond guy, who helped him raise $160 million in high-yield bonds to build a Golden Nugget in Atlantic City. Since it was financed with debt, Steve didn't even have to give up any of his shares. When it opened, it was the most profitable casino in the city. In 1987, he sold the Atlantic City Golden Nugget to Bally's for $440 million. As if he wasn't a big swinging dick already, he was about to grow even bigger. Steve set out to really make a mark on the Vegas Strip with his next project, the Mirage, and he renamed the Golden Nugget companies to Mirage Resorts. Steve considered Vegas to be what he called only a $200 million town. So naturally, he set a big swinging dick budget of $565 million for the 3,044 room Mirage, the most expensive Vegas hotel ever. Even though Wall Street was too scared to back him and the stock price plummeted, Steve was still able to raise money with Michael Milken through high-yield bonds again. The final budget ended up being $680 million because he built a fake volcano in a 2.3 million gallon lagoon that erupted 100,000 gallons of water per minute and spewed pina colada scented lava. He also included things like a dolphin habitat that required a $14 million pool, a shark tank behind the reception desk, and contracted a little-known duo named Siegfried and Roy. Naysayers thought it would be impossible to profit with a $1.1 million daily operating cost. But when it opened in 1989, the volcano not only siphoned customers from other hotels in the Strip, it attracted people from all over the world. Annual visitors to Vegas went up 16%, and the Mirage blew away estimates with a 29% return on investment. Steve parlayed those profits to build another mega resort right next door to the Mirage. He converted the parking lot into the $450 million, 2,884 room Treasure Island, targeting a lower-end customer to lure customers from casinos like Harrah's. This property featured a moat with a 30-minute naval battle between pirates and the British Navy. Spoiler alert, the pirates win. And this was the first permanent home of a Cirque du Soleil show, Mystere, starting another entertainment trend on the Strip. Treasure Island opened in 1993 and was also very profitable with a 23% return on investment. But Steve wanted to do something classier next to stay ahead of the trend that he started on the Strip, and he began with a modest budget of $400 million for what would become the 3,950 room Bellagio. When he started getting his hands dirty with the plans, the budget ballooned to $900 million. And then the art buying started. Steve wanted to give guests an alternative to the loud stimuli of Vegas with quiet moments of reflection. In what would become one of the most expensive private collections of art in the world, he bought works of Degas, Van Gogh, Matisse, and so many Picassos. In total, the art at the Bellagio cost $300 million. $125 million was from Steve's personal collection, which he rented to the Bellagio for $5 million a year. Oh, and by the time it opened in 1998, it ended up costing $1.7 billion, the most expensive hotel in the world. That's because he ended up building a 25 million gallon lake in the front, with 1,200 custom designed jets for a dancing fountain choreographed to music. Keep in mind this is in a desert. The lobby also features the Fiori di Como, 2,000 custom hand-blown glass flowers on the ceiling, weighing 50,000 pounds. Wall Street didn't know what to expect with such an outrageous budget and over-the-top features, and the stock fluctuated wildly. But the Bellagio quickly became the most profitable hotel in Nevada's history, bringing in $282 million in one quarter in 1999. But those profits were offset by another hotel with an out-of-control budget that Steve was developing in Biloxi, Mississippi, the 1,740-room Beau Rivage. Steve wanted to transform Biloxi just like he had done in Vegas. The Beau Rivage was the largest casino outside of Nevada and had to be built on a barge since casinos had to be on marine vessels. With only a $200 million budget, it actually wasn't quite as flashy as his other Vegas hotels. The problem was that the budget ballooned to $680 million and dragged down Mirage Resort's stock. The Beau Rivage turned out to be one of Wynn's costliest errors, and it proved to Wall Street that he wasn't invincible. Speaking of Wall Street, being a super successful big swinging dick literally comes with bonuses. Even though Mirage Resorts was publicly traded, Steve ran it like a family empire. The board of directors was stacked with family and friends, and despite the underperformance due to cost overruns in 1998 and 99, Steve was awarded a $1.25 million bonus each year with the recommendation of the CEO himself. Wall Street had battered the stock as low as $10 a share, which was below the book value of the assets. But shortly thereafter, Steve negotiated the sale of Mirage Resorts to Kirk Kerkorian's MGM for $6.4 billion, or $21 a share. 5 weeks before the sale, Steve bought the Desert Inn at the top of the Strip for $270 million. He was planning on something even bigger.
I'm Steve Wynn, and this is my new hotel, the only one I've ever signed my name to.
After a couple of years of planning the 2,716 room Wynn, the first hotel that Steve was willing to put his name on, he decided to go public because of, once again, a ballooning budget. The Wynn was actually more intimate than his past hotels, and Steve no longer cared about doing things bigger and flashier than before. He went for a classier and more exclusive feel with a golf course and super high-end retail, so even though it was 1,200 rooms smaller than the Bellagio, the Wynn cost $1 billion more at a total budget of $2.7 billion. But Wynn Resorts stock went wild with anticipation, going from $13 in 2002 to $75 by the time the Wynn opened in the spring of 2005. Steve became a billionaire. The featured show at the Wynn was an original aquatic variation on Cirque du Soleil shows, named La Rêve, after a Picasso painting that Steve acquired in 2001 for a record $55 million. This was a portrait of Picasso's 22-year-old mistress sleeping and dreaming in a chair, as La Rêve translates to the dream. But Picasso hid a joke in the painting. Half of her face is actually a hidden in plain sight, big swinging, and that's why Steve had to buy it. In 2006, He was all set to sell it to hedge fund manager Stephen Cohen for $139 million and was showing it off to friends. But due to his vision issues, he accidentally ripped a 6-inch tear into it with his elbow as he was gesturing. The deal was off and it had to be repaired. But in 2013, Stephen Cohen ended up coming back and paying $155 million for it. Anyway, Steve continued building and immediately followed up the win with the 2034 room Encore, opening in 2008 on the adjacent lot to the north.
Hello, I'm over here. 3 years ago, I stood over there, introducing you to Wynn Las Vegas. Now I'm following it up the best way I know how. This is Encore.
It was just what you'd expect from an Encore. More of everything he did in the Wynn. He did more than one of these follow-ups though, also making his mark in Macau during its construction boom, with the Wynn Macau opening in 2006, Encore at Wynn Macau in 2010, and the Wynn Palace in Macau in 2016. His last project was the Encore Boston Harbor in Massachusetts in 2018. Why would I say it's his last when it seems like nothing could stop Steve's big swinging? Well, it turns out he may have swung it out of his pants when he shouldn't have. A few dozen times. During the Me Too movement in 2018, current and former employees came out with accusations of sexual misconduct by Steve over decades. Among the cases, one was paid a $7 million settlement, some were coerced to give massages, some were fired if they gained too much weight, and some are just too weird to mention here. The Nevada and Massachusetts gaming commissions cracked down on Steve, issuing him fines and attempting to ban him from the casino industry. Wynn stock plummeted on the news, and on February 8th, 2018, Steve stepped down as CEO of Wynn Resorts. So what's he up to now? Well, he seems to be quietly retreating into retired life in Palm Beach, Florida, because he put his 11-bed, 16-bath Beverly Hills mansion up for sale for $110 million, more than double what he paid for it 6 years ago. It's a 27,000 square foot mini resort that rivals Nile Miami's mega mansions. He was our previous big swinging dick, by the way. Check out the video here. As of this filming, Steve is 79 years young, and despite the fines and bans, I don't know if you can ever retire a big swinging. Chances are he'll end up developing something again somewhere. That's it for now, but let me know in the comments if you have a suggestion for another big swinging you'd like me to do a video about, and I'll consider it. Till next time, hit those like and subscribe buttons and stay curious, noobs.